It's interesting, too, John, that if they further analyze what really causes discontent, and this is true for employees as well as outside customers, it's usually either disinterest or indifference. And you could almost use that as an umbrella principle for what you were just talking about. Okay, let's move on to the communications dimension of service first. And before we do that, I'd like to set up another symbol or sort of picture for us to think about as we look at our job. We used in the program, or your leader may have used, a symbol to look at skill development as being personified or represented like two wheels on a bicycle. And if you think about most bikes, they have two wheels, and the back wheel is the power wheel, and we equated that as being synonymous with anything and everything related to your job that's of a technical or business or task orientation. It's everything related to our job where we need to understand the technicalities of when our product and service works, how it works, and all the resources that are necessary to make it work. It's the power wheel. The steering mechanism for most bikes is the front wheel, and we look at that as being synonymous with everything we need to know about communication and people to effectively utilize that wealth of back wheel knowledge and expertise. And when we think about front wheel, we're talking about communications, about sensitivity, about caring. It's the more subjective dimension of our job that you might literally summarize by saying it's our ability to get along. Now, we then asked which wheel is more important. Well, it's a gotcha question because you could argue that the front wheel is more important, or you could argue that, gee, you got to have all the technical resources to get your job done. Well, the real answer, and probably the best answer, is really it depends. It depends on the nature of the situation. It depends on the nature of the challenge that we're facing. But most of us would agree that we need both wheels. And we also agree that most of us have received most of our focus and training on back wheel. And this program is not suggesting that the back wheel is unimportant. You don't need those technical skills. But this program kind of looks at the front wheel. It gives us ways to measure our performance and competency bicycle from the emphasis on communication, on relationships, on sensitivity, from the people perspective. Now, with that as a backdrop, John, what are your thoughts regarding the first critical communication step in the professional role of a customer service person, that step which we could identify as relationship?
Jim, the most important thing is our attitude. It's instantaneous. A customer can pick it up within seconds, and I don't care if we're on the phone or if we're in person. It's our ability to, with body language, to demonstrate that we truly care. It's our ability to use some basic language like smiling, thank you. I think one of the most important, powerful techniques you can use in the area of customer service is recognizing customers, using their name, remembering their names. You know, put yourself into the role of the typical customer situation you face probably on a daily, if not weekly basis, when you're filling up your car with fuel, when you're stopping at the convenience store, when you're going to a fast food place for lunch or dinner, your dry cleaners, the hundreds of different situations where you tend to give people a fair amount of repeat business. When's the last time anybody recognized you? When's the last time, through body language, facial expressions, they showed they really cared about you and appreciated the fact that you came there? When's the last time they looked at your driver's license or your check or your credit card and actually fed your name back to you? I mean, this is so basic. It is so fundamental. But it never happens. And ask yourself, would you tend to give that convenience store, that fast food restaurant, that gas station, the thousands of places we interface with on a weekly basis, where would you tend to go? Who would you tend to give the most business to? The one that knew who you were, that instantaneously recognized you, made you feel wanted and loved? That's what we're trying to do with those basic communication skills. And if each of us can master this and use just this element, nothing else, you will have one of the most significant changes within your organization you've ever seen.
You sound pretty excited about that idea, Jan.
I've been focusing on this subject for so long, and it just frustrates me because I don't see people doing it.
Okay, let's build off of that notion and idea by talking about a subject that sometimes is seen as very general, and that's the whole subject of communication. And by communication and service first, we meant either getting information or giving information, certainly two critical components of almost any kind of assignment that we may have. John, what are some of the salient points or key ideas you have regarding this whole area of communication?
Well, we need to be able to show a really positive, exciting attitude with people. People don't understand what we're thinking, and the only way to communicate that is to verbalize it. They cannot read our minds. And secondly, we have to tune into it. We have to really listen to what they want. We have to be able to ask questions to try to probe them and to find out what some of their needs are that we can be of help to. And if we do this, you'll be surprised at how that customer will interface and give you the kind of feedback that you want.
Okay. It's obviously important to use communication when you're faced with one of those tough situations that I talked about earlier that maybe really determines why we get our salary. It's those 10 or 15% times when things don't go well that we really put to the metal as it relates to our ability to manage ourselves and to demonstrate both the attitudinal skills and the communication skills that we've reviewed with you right now. And it's that time that maybe we have to walk that tightrope between not giving too much information or too little, but being right on or just right. Let's talk about, though, the tough times, the conflict times, the stressful times when either with a coworker or with a customer face-to-face over the telephone, we really do have to manage ourselves through conflict. John, what were some of the key reminders that we or you would like to share with our folks around dealing with conflict, dealing with people who are upset?
Well, there's a terminology that we could use and that might summarize this, that would reinforce what you heard and learned in Service First, and it's called Class Act. And the skills we're going to talk about here, by the way, are just as applicable with customers as they with fellow employees, your family, and with even your boss. C, in terms of Class Act, would be courteous. When we have an upset situation, a difficult situation, we really need to practice being courteous. And L stands for listening and learning. We need to really tune in and pay attention to what they want and let that individual know that we're truly listening to them. And A from class stands for asking questions. We need to really probe them because people, when they're emotional, when they're excited, cannot answer questions in a logical manner. So it forces them to become more rational and more logical and to get out of that emotional state. That means you may have to ask them a few questions that require thought on their part, but you'll be able to pull them out of that emotional state eventually. And the S out of class stands for soothing, being sensitive, showing the empathy, showing that you truly care. And the last S of class stands for solve. The customer wants us to solve the problem. They don't care about anything else. They want it solved and to their satisfaction. And go back to what we talked about earlier. It has to be a win-win situation for that customer. In their mind, they have to win because you need to look at customers as an ongoing relationship. ACT, if we take the A's, talks about apologizing for what happened. Too often we shove the blame off on somebody else. Well, that we weren't staffed right. It's the company's fault. It's the other employee. It's not my job. It's not my responsibility. Let me tell you what, the customer doesn't really care. To them, you are the organization. It's all they want us to do is apologize. Say, sir, I'm sorry. It's our fault. You'd be shocked at how that will blow them off and satisfy their need because they're just not used to that. And the C out of ACT stands for collaborate. To get the customer satisfaction, to work with the customer so that they are satisfied with the response of what they're looking for. And then the T stands for thank the customer for bringing the problem to you. If they didn't bring it to you, I mean, there's 26 people that don't ever complain. In 91% of them, if it's a major ticket item, are never going to do business with you again. So you are really fortunate that somebody took the time, took the initiative to let you know about a problem. Because when you know the problem, then you can solve the problem to their satisfaction, which means you're going to keep a long-term customer.
John, and also as you talk, I think of so frequently the situations that I've been involved in or observed where there has been conflict or stress or tension. When it's gone wrong, it's usually gone wrong because there's almost been a sense of a contest that takes place. That the person who's upset gets into a battle almost with the person on the other side of the desk or the telephone, and while maybe the customer service professional might be right, in this case, I guess it's fair to say that we think our first job is to serve the customer and let them win. And in the long run, if they win, you're going to win and your organization's going to win. So interestingly, watch as an observer sometime when things do go wrong and sense, as you now may be able to, how much of a contestual sort of orientation takes place, and hopefully maybe we can make a pact to not play that kind of a game anymore. Well, we'd like to wrap up and by saying literally what we did when we began, that the common component of this whole program is you, and that's, as you probably may remember in the Service First system, that's how we wrapped up the program. We'd really like to suggest that we are encouraging you to take these ideas and measure your performance. A little bit of change, a little bit of improvement from your very fine role and performance now can make a significant or geometric payback for you, your organization, and the customers, internal or external, you serve. John, your closing comments.
Well, Jim, we have moved into a service economy on a worldwide basis, and the only thing lacking is service. We have the opportunity, you have the opportunity here to provide some incredible service for your customers, whether they be internal or external. And the exciting thing is that customers get literally shocked when they get such high levels of excellence in terms of service. You can see it in their attitude, you can see it in their behavior, and they love to interface with that kind of an individual and that kind of an organization. So I challenge you to help build your skills and your organization skills so that in your market arena, when anybody says, who is the most service-driven organization? Which organization gives me the reliability, the consistency that really cares about me as a human being, that the first individual they think about is you, and secondly, your organization. Thank you.
Okay, we're wrapping up with one last thought, and we began with this one too, and that is people don't like to be sold, but they sure like to buy. And maybe the closing thought we have is that people don't like to be mistreated, they love to be served, and that is really our role. A very well-known business speaker and spokesperson says in a lot of his speeches, the best way for an organization or an individual to predict the future is to create it for themselves. And we hope the very best for you in your creating your future.